programs have you been in that promised financial freedom, time freedom, daily pay, and you see a handful of people crushing it, while everyone else is left wondering what they're doing wrong? Here's what most people think. I'm just not working hard enough. I'm not posting enough. I'm not being consistent. If I could be just more like Sarah, who's posting 5 times a day and making money while she sleeps, then I could finally make this work. But here's the truth nobody's talking about. It's not you. It's the programs. Most of these systems are built around one specific person's story, one specific lifestyle, and when your life doesn't match theirs, the entire strategy falls apart. I've been in this space long enough to watch thousands of people cycle through program after program. And I've noticed a pattern. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why cookie cutter programs only work for a select few, what makes someone the chosen one in these systems, and what you need to look for instead if you actually want this to work for your life. And hey, real quick before we dive in, if you've been stuck in this cycle of buying programs that don't work, drop a comment right now and just say me. I want to see how many of us have been through this, because I guarantee you're not alone. Now, before I reveal the biggest reason these programs fail most people, I need you to understand something about how online business programs are actually designed. Every program you see is built around a success story. And if you look closely at most of them, you're going to notice a pattern. Single moms are dominating the testimonials. Why? Because their story is the most compelling to sell. The struggling mom who turned her life around, who's now making money from her phone while her kids play in the background. It's inspiring, it's emotional, and it sells. But here's what they don't tell you. These programs are reverse engineered from that one success story. The messaging, the timeline, the strategies, even the content ideas are all built around someone who has a very specific set of circumstances. Maybe they're a single mom with flexible custody arrangements. Maybe they have a supportive ex who takes the kids every weekend. Maybe they have family nearby who can help with childcare. Maybe their kids are school age, not toddlers who need constant attention. Maybe they're receiving child support or alimony that covers their basic expenses, removing that financial pressure. But when you don't fit that exact profile, the entire system breaks down. You're told to batch content on Sunday afternoons, but you're working a 9 to 5 and Sunday is your only day to recover. You're told to post during peak hours at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., but those are exactly when you're in back-to-back meetings. You're told to engage in the comments for an hour every morning, but you're barely getting your kids out the door and yourself to work on time. Or maybe you don't have kids at all. Maybe you're a corporate professional, a retiree, someone caring for aging parents, or just somebody with a completely different life structure. Suddenly, every strategy feels foreign because it wasn't designed for someone like you. I watched someone in a program I was in try to follow the exact posting schedule. She's a full-time nurse working 12-hour shifts. The program coach kept saying, just wake up earlier. She was already waking up at 4:30 in the morning. At what point does just wake up earlier become don't sleep at all? She ended up burning out within 6 weeks and felt like she was a failure, when really the system was never designed for somebody that was working rotating hospital shifts. I saw another person, a corporate executive, try to use the work from anywhere messaging that worked for the program's success story. His audience of other executives didn't want to work from a beach and valley. They wanted efficiency, systems, and results. The whole angle fell flat because it was built for a completely different lifestyle and audience. And here's what makes this even worse. The messaging itself is designed for one type of person, which means when you try to use it for your audience, you're basically speaking a language they don't understand. Let me show you what I mean. This might be the most overlooked reason people fail in these programs, and it's hiding in plain sight. Every time you try to customize those templates, every piece of content you create needs to speak to your ideal client. But when the program gives you templates, captions, and content ideas built around the coach's ideal client, you're basically speaking a foreign language to your actual audience. And here's the thing that most people don't realize. Most people don't realize this is happening until they've already wasted months creating content that gets zero engagement. Let me give you an example. A program designed by a single mom entrepreneur is going to have messaging like, imagine making money while your kids are at school, or build a business around nap time. No more choosing between being present for your children and building your dreams. Or what if you could work in your pajamas and never miss another school play? These are all great, right? Except, what if you don't have kids? What if you're a corporate professional trying to build a side business? What if you're retired and looking for purpose? What if you're a young professional who wants to travel the world? Suddenly, every template, every script, every content idea feels completely off. But it goes even deeper than that. The pain points are different. The objections are different. The desires are different. A single mom might be driven for the need for flexibility and being present for her children. A corporate professional might be driven by the desire for creative freedom and escaping office politics. A retiree might be driven by the need for purpose and leaving a legacy. These are fundamentally different motivations. This is why so many people ghost after buying a program. They download all the templates, they try to customize them, and realize they're basically starting from scratch anyway, and then they wonder why they paid for this in the first place. They'll spend hours trying to make it work by swapping out a few words here and there, but the core message is still wrong for their audience. Think about it like this. If I gave you a love letter template written for someone confessing their feelings to their high school sweetheart, could you customize that to propose to your spouse of 20 years? Sure, you could change some words, but the tone, the depth, the specific memories, it's all wrong. You'd be much better starting from scratch. And that's exactly what's happening with these cookie cutter programs. I saw someone in a business program try to use a tired mom hook for her audience of male executives in finance. Tired of choosing between your career and your kids? Her audience didn't have that problem. Most of them had stay-at-home spouses. Content bombed. But not because she wasn't consistent, not because she didn't post enough, but because the message was built for someone else's audience entirely. Another person was trying to sell to coaches and consultants using the messaging about making money in your pajamas. Her audience of high-level professionals saw that as unprofessional and unserious. They wanted messaging about impact, scale, and systems, not freedom and flexibility. The tragedy is that both of these people had great offers. They had the expertise. They had the value to deliver, but they were using somebody else's voice to try to reach their audience, and it created a disconnect that killed their results. But even if you manage to customize the messaging and adjust the schedule to fit your life, there's still one more massive problem that nobody talks about. And this one is the most deceptive at all. This is by far the most important thing I'm going to tell you in this entire video. And yet, it's also the most overlooked. In fact, what I discovered about this changed everything about how I view success stories in these programs. Now, when you see somebody succeeding wildly in a program, you're only seeing the front-facing results. You're not seeing what's happening behind the scenes. And those behind-the-scenes factors are often the real reason that they're winning. This creates a false comparison that makes you feel like you're failing when you're actually just starting from a completely different place. The people who crush it in these programs usually have advantages that they don't mention, and sometimes they don't even realize they should mention them because they just seem normal to them. Maybe they already had an email list of 2,000 people before they started. Maybe they have a spouse with a stable 6-figure income, so there's zero financial pressure or urgency. Maybe they hired a VA to handle all the admin work, scheduling, and engagement while they just focused on creating their content. Maybe they have a background in marketing, sales, or copywriting and didn't need to learn those skills from scratch. Maybe they've been building relationships in the industry for 3 years and already have that audience that knows, likes, and trusts them. Or here's a big one nobody talks about. Maybe they failed in 5 other programs before this one, so they already learned all the hard lessons. You're comparing your day 1 to their day 300, but they only show you the highlight reel. The program sells you on the idea that if you just follow the system, you'll get the same results. But the system doesn't include a spouse covering all the bills. It doesn't include an existing network of 500 people who already know and trust you. It doesn't include a decade of marketing experience that makes creating content feel effortless. It doesn't include the time and money already invested in failing forward through previous programs. And when you don't have those advantages, you start thinking something's wrong with you. You think you're not disciplined enough, not smart enough, not consistent enough. But that's not it at all. You're trying to replicate results that were only possible because of invisible factors that you didn't know existed. I watched somebody explode in a business program, and everyone was asking, well, what's her secret? How is she getting clients so fast? Turns out she had been a social media manager for 3 years before joining. She knew the platforms inside and out. She knew what worked. She knew how to create scroll-stopping content. She knew how to analyze metrics and optimize on the fly. The program didn't teach her that. She already had it. But when everyone else tried to replicate her results without that foundation, they couldn't figure out why it was working. Another person in program started getting traction immediately, and everybody thought she was just naturally good at sales. Turns out she'd been in pharmaceutical sales for 7 years. She knew how to handle objections. She knew how to build rapport. She knew how to close. These are skills that take years to develop, but because she already had them, the program worked for her while everyone else struggled. Here's another one. I saw someone start posting, and within 2 weeks, she had paying clients. Everyone was asking for her secret sauce. The secret was that her husband had a network of entrepreneurs from his business, and she'd been to dozens of networking events with him over the past 5 years. So when she launched, she already had warm relationships with potential clients. She didn't build an audience from zero. She activated an audience that she didn't even realize that she'd been building. And here's what makes this so insidious. These people often don't even realize that their advantages are advantages. To them, everyone has a network. To them, everyone knows how to create engaging content. To them, everyone has some financial cushion. They genuinely believe that they're just following the system. So when they teach it, they leave out all the invisible factors that actually made it work. So now you might be thinking, okay, so I'm doomed unless I already have all these advantages? No, not at all. But what you need is completely different from what these programs are selling you. And actually, just quick side note here, if you're realizing you need support that's actually customized to your situation, I've got a free community called the Dream to Done Launchpad. This is where we help people build businesses that actually fit their lives. No cookie cutter templates, no one size fits all timelines, just real support for real people. Links in the description if you want to check it out. Okay, so back to why these timelines are so deceptive. There's one more trap these programs set that keep you stuck in comparison mode, and it's probably keeping you up at night right now. Every sales page you see has a timeline. She made her first $10,000 in 60 days. He quit his job in 90 days. She replaced her corporate income in 4 months. These timelines become the measuring stick that you use to judge your own progress. And when you're 6 months in without the same results, you start spiraling. But here's what they don't tell you about those timelines. They're almost always incomplete. They're counting from that day that that person joined the program, not from the day that they actually started their business journey. That 60-day success story, they might have spent the previous 2 years building an audience, learning about their niche, developing their skills, and creating relationships. Their clock didn't start at 0. It started at month 24. But the program only counts the time from enrollment to result, not the total time invested. Or let's say somebody replaced their income in 4 months. Well, what was their income? If they were working part-time, making $2,000 a month, that's a very different goal than someone that was making $8,000 a month from a full-time job. But the timeline sounds equally impressive in the testimonial, right? When you compare your month 3 to their month 3, you have no idea. You're actually comparing your month 3 to their month 30. You feel behind when you're actually right on track. You feel like you're failing when you're actually progressing normally. And this creates what I call timeline anxiety. You're constantly checking, am I where I should be? She had X results by this point, why don't I? But you're measuring against a false baseline. I've watched many people quit a program in frustration because they weren't seeing results after 3 months. The success story that they're comparing themselves to had made $5,000 in 90 days. What that success story didn't mention in the testimonial was she'd been blogging for 2 years before joining the program and already had 15,000 email subscribers. Her 90 days was really 2 years and 90 days. The person that quit they're starting from absolute zero with no audience, no email list, no content library, and comparing their 90 days to somebody else's 820. Another guy was beating himself up because he wasn't at 6 figures after a year in the program. The testimonial that inspired him to join showed someone hitting 6 figures in 12 months. But what he didn't know was that person had sold a business a year before and invested $100,000 into ads, coaching, and a team. He was bootstrapping with $500 in his time. Completely different games. Now, with all of this, the lifestyle mismatch, the messaging problems, the hidden advantages, and the timeline trap, you might be wondering if there's any way to make this work. And there is, but it requires a completely different approach. If you've been in program after program and nothing's clicked, it's not because you're broken. It's not because you lack discipline. It's not because that you're not cut out for this. It's because you're trying to fit into somebody else's life instead of building a system around your life. And the moment you flip that, everything changes. You need a strategy that starts with your reality, not the reality you wish you had, not the reality you'll have someday when you're more organized, your actual reality today. How much time do you actually have? Not hypothetically, not if you were more disciplined, but right now, today, in your real life. If you have 30 minutes a day, that's your reality. Build for 30 minutes. Don't start with a system that requires 3 hours and then beat yourself up for not finding the time. And what's your actual audience? Not the audience the program coach has, but the people you are trying to reach. What do they care about? What keeps them up at night? What do they need to hear to know you understand them? This might require some research. It might require conversations. It might require testing different messages, but it has to start with them, not with a template. What resources do you actually have access to? Not the ones you wish you had, but what's available to you today. Do you have any existing connections, any skills from your past that will transfer? Any budget for tools or help? Any support system that can free up time? Start there. Build from there. What advantages do you have that maybe you're not even considering? Maybe you're great on camera. Maybe you're an excellent writer. Maybe you have access to a specific community. Maybe you have deep expertise in a niche. These aren't unfair advantages like we talked about earlier. These are your advantages. Use them. Instead of looking for a program that promises results, look for a program that asks questions first. Does the coach want to know about your life before giving you a strategy? Do they customize the approach based on where you're actually starting? Are they teaching you how to think, not just what to do? Here's what that looks like in practice. So instead of post every day at 10 a.m., it's let's figure out when you can realistically create content and when is your audience actually online. Instead of use these templates, let's understand your audience's language and craft messages that resonate with them. Instead of you should be here by month 3, it's let's track your progress against your starting point and adjust as we learn. The best programs don't give you a fish or even teach you how to fish. They help you figure out what kind of fishing works in your lake, with your equipment, in your available time. The people I've seen have the most sustainable success aren't the ones following a step-by-step blueprint. They're the ones that learn the principles and adapted them to their situation. They post at times that work for their schedule, not what some guru says is optimal. Maybe that's 9 p.m. after the kids go to bed instead of 7 a.m. before work. Maybe that's batching on Tuesday afternoons instead of Sunday. The time doesn't matter. The consistency does. They create content that their audience actually cares about, not what performed well for someone else. Maybe their audience wants in-depth analysis, not quick tips. Maybe they want personal stories, not statistics. Maybe they want entertainment, not education. They test and they learn instead of assuming. They build a business that fits their life instead of burning out trying to fit their life around a business. They work with their energy patterns instead of against them. They leverage their natural strengths instead of forcing themselves into somebody else's process. They measure their success against their own goals, not somebody else's timeline. I know somebody that built a successful coaching business, posting only 3 times a week on LinkedIn, never using Instagram at all, because that's where her audience was. And that's what fit her life. The program she bought told her she needed to be on Instagram, posting stories every day. She tried that for 2 months, got no results, felt like a failure, and almost quit. But when she gave herself permission to do it differently, everything clicked. This requires a fundamental shift. You have to stop trying to be the success story and start trying to be the architect of your own success. Stop asking, what did they do? And start asking, what works for me? Stop measuring yourself against their 90 days and start measuring yourself against your own progress. Stop trying to fit into their system and start building your own. Look, I get it. Cookie cutter programs are tempting because they promise certainty. They promise that if you just follow the steps, you'll get the results. But that certainty is an illusion. Real certainty comes from understanding the principles deeply enough to adapt them to your unique situation. So let's bring this all together because this is important. Programs fail most people not because those people are doing something wrong, but because the programs are built for one specific person's life, one specific audience, and one specific set of circumstances. The single mom success story means the entire strategy is built around a lifestyle you might not have. The cookie cutter messaging means that you're speaking to somebody else's audience with somebody else's words. The hidden advantages mean that you're comparing your beginning to somebody else's middle without even knowing it. And the timeline trap means you're measuring your progress against a false baseline that was never realistic in the first place. Here's the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud. Most programs aren't designed to help you succeed. They're designed to use somebody else's success to sell you hope. And there's a big difference. A program designed to help you succeed starts by understanding you, your situation, your audience, your resources, your timeline. A program designed to sell you hope starts with a compelling testimonial and works backwards from there. You came here wondering why you keep investing programs that don't work? Now you know. It's not about working harder. It's not about being more consistent. It's not about finding that secret that successful people know. It's about finding an approach that is actually designed for your life, your audience, and your reality. And once you understand that, you stop wasting money on cookie cutter programs that were never going to work for you anyway. You stop beating yourself up for not getting the same results as somebody who started from a completely different place. You stop measuring your month 3 against their month 3, when you now know that's probably their month 30. The most liberating thing you can do is give yourself permission to do this differently, to build a business that fits your life instead of forcing your life around somebody else's blueprint, to speak to your audience in your voice about what they actually care about. to measure your progress against your own starting point, not somebody else's highlight reel. You don't need another cookie cutter program. You need to become the architect of your own success. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, which one of these program pitfalls have you experienced? Is it the lifestyle mismatch where the schedule just doesn't work for your life? Is it the messaging that doesn't fit your audience? Is it comparing yourself to people who had advantages that you didn't know about? Or is it the timeline trap where you felt behind because somebody else hit a milestone faster? And be specific if you can. The more we talk about this, the more we can help each other avoid these traps. If this video helped you see why those programs weren't working, do me a favor, share it with somebody who's stuck in the program cycle. That friend who keeps buying courses but never finishes them. That colleague who's always talking about finally getting consistent this time. That family member who's beating themselves up for not being where they think they should be. Send them this video. They need to hear this message. And look, I'll leave you with this. Your path doesn't have to look like anyone else's. In fact, it probably shouldn't. The moment you stop trying to replicate somebody else's success and start building something that fits your life, that's when everything changes. That's when the frustration ends and the real progress begins. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video and hopefully get to know you soon inside the Dream to Done Launchpad community.